Alrighty, guys, we're 3-0 in our last 3 NBA tier package bets on my website. And I'll include a link for today's NBA tier package bet in the description section below. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to the video here today for Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. I also sell my personal sports bets on patreon.com/BrockPage. Once again, guys, I'm 3-0 my last 3 NBA tier package bets on that website. And just a reminder, guys, if you sign up for that package here today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all my cheaper memberships absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. Now, I currently have over 545 members who are signed up and active on that site right now. And with that, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. We're going to take a look at the Clippers taking on the Magic, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off. The LA Clippers are -7, totals 216. Now, the Clippers play some of the stingiest defense in the league. They're in the top 5 in fewest points allowed on the road. When it comes to offensive production, Paul George is scoring a team-best 23 points a game. Now, they're facing an Orlando team who lost their last 9 straight. They have all kinds of problems on offense. These guys are in the bottom 3 in the NBA in points per contest. When it comes to defensive play, they're also having a tough time stopping anyone at the Amway Center. They have one of the highest defensive field goal percentages at home in the league. When it comes to the injury report, Harris, Okike, and Suggs are out. Mo Bamba's questionable. Meanwhile, for the Clippers, Wall, Morris, Powell, and Kennard are out for them. When it comes to the total in this one, the Clippers are 68% to the under for the whole year. Meanwhile, Orlando saw 5 out of their last 8 stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Clippers, -7, under 216. Next ball game, Hornets Nets, 7:30 p.m. East. Brooklyn's the 10-point favorite at home, totals 222. And for a team laying double digits in this spot here, the Nets certainly don't score a whole lot at home. They're in the bottom 10 in home scoring, bottom 5 in home offensive rebounding. They're facing a Charlotte team who does a great job defending the three-pointer. These guys are in the top 5 in defensive three-point percentage. And when it comes to rebounding the basketball, the Hornets are one of the better offensive rebounding teams in the East. Mason Plumlee is getting over 9 rebounds a night. He's also averaging nearly double-digit points a game. And speaking of points, Terry Rozier is scoring a team-best 21 points a game. Now, injury-wise, Smith, Ball, and Williams are out for Charlotte. Meanwhile, for Brooklyn, Simmons and Watanabe are out. Sumner's questionable. When it comes to the total, Brooklyn's 9-4 to the under at the Barclays Center. They're also 64% to the under for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward Charlotte +10, under 222. Next ball game, Hawks at the Knicks, 7:30 p.m. East. New York's -2, totals 231.5. And even though they're favored in this one, the Knicks did drop 6 out of their last 9. And they currently have a losing record at Madison Square Garden. The Knicks have also had significant problems on defense this year. They're in the bottom 5 in the league in home points allowed. And in addition to all that, New York's also one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the game. They're facing an Atlanta squad who does a real nice job getting to the basket on the road. These guys are in the top 3 in the league in road scoring. And no real surprise here, guys. The Hawks also have one of the higher field goal percentages away from home in the entire league. Trae Young scoring a team-best 27 points a game. He's also drilling 90% of his free throws. Meanwhile, DeJounte Murray, he's right behind him with 21.5 points a night himself. When it comes to the injury report, Collins, Hunter, and Forrest are still out for Atlanta. Meanwhile, for the Knicks, Ryan Arcidiacono is out with an ankle. Now, total-wise, the Knicks are 7-5 to the over at MSG. Meanwhile, Atlanta went 73% to the over in their travels. I'm going to lean toward Atlanta +2, over 231.5. Next matchup, it is going to be Lakers at the Raptors, 7:30 p.m. East. Toronto's -9, totals 229. Now, the Raptors lost 3 out of their last 4. And they gave up a whole bunch of points in the process. And when it comes to offensive production in this one, this is one of the worst field goal shooting teams at home in the game. Now, they're facing a Laker team on the other side of things who won 7 out of their last 10 themselves. They covered the point spread in 70% of those contests. Now, the Lakers are doing a nice job of getting to the basket, especially recently. Come on, let's spit it out, Brock. They're in the top 10 in scoring, top 10 in field goal percentage on the road. LeBron James is averaging over 25 points a night along with 9 rebounds. Meanwhile, Austin Reeves, he's averaging nearly double-digit points a game himself, and he's drilling nearly 92% of his free throws. Now, injury-wise, the Lakers are relatively healthy at the moment, for the exception of Anthony Davis. He's questionable with the triple-demic. Meanwhile, for Toronto, Porter, Achua, and Hernan Gomez, they are out for them. Now, total-wise, Toronto saw overs against the likes of Orlando, New Orleans, and Atlanta. Meanwhile, the Lakers went 4-2 to the over in their last 6. I'm going to lean toward the Lakers +9 over 229. Next contest, Pacers, Timberwolves, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Minnesota's -5, totals 236. Now, the T-Wolves dropped 4 out of their last 5. And they've done a poor job of covering the point spread. Out of their last 8 ball games, Minnesota covered the number only twice. Now, their biggest problem this year has been their defensive play. Minnesota's allowing 118 points a night in their own building. And they're in the bottom 3 in guarding the three-pointer at home. Now, they're facing an Indy team on the other side who's one of the better scoring teams in the Eastern Conference. Benny Mathurin, he's scoring over 18 points a game, and he's also averaging a couple of boards as well. And, of course, Buddy Hield, he's scoring nearly 17 points a night himself. Now, injury-wise, Johnson, McConnell, Turner, and Halliburton, they're all questionable for the Pacers. Meanwhile, on the other side for Minnesota, Prince and Towns, they're still out for them. And when it comes to the scoring, Minnesota went 60% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Indy saw overs against the likes of Utah, Sacramento, and Brooklyn. I'm going to lean toward Indiana +5 over 236. Next contest, it is going to be Thunder at the Grizzlies, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Memphis is -7.5, totals 232. Now, the Grizzlies are doing a nice job of scoring points. They're in the top 10 in the league in points per contest, and they're leading the NBA in offensive boards. John Morant's grabbing over 6 rebounds a night, and he's the team's leading scorer with 28.5 points per game. Jaren Jackson's also scoring nearly 20 points a game himself. They're facing a Thunder team who struggles slowing anyone down. These guys are currently in the bottom 3 in the NBA in points allowed per contest. And when it comes to rebounding the basketball, nobody's worse on the defensive end than Oklahoma City. They're dead last in the league in defensive boards per game. Now, injury-wise, Kenrich Williams is out with a knee. Meanwhile, for Memphis, Green is out. LaRavia is doubtful. When it comes to the scoring, Memphis went 6-3 to the over in their last 9. Meanwhile, OKC saw 6 out of their last 9 get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Memphis -7.5 over 232. Next contest, it is going to be Wizards at the Bulls, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Chicago's -5.5, totals 227 and a hook. Now, the Bulls are on a 3-game losing streak, and they failed to cover in 7 out of their last 10. Believe it or not, guys, the Bulls' biggest problem is their offensive production at home. These guys are currently in the bottom 10 in the league in home points per contest. Now, they're facing a Washington team on the other side who actually does a real nice job on the defensive end of the court. The Wizards have the third lowest defensive field goal percentage in the NBA. When it comes to rebounding, well, the Wizards are amongst the better offensive rebounding teams in the East. Kristaps Porzingis, he's grabbing nearly 9 rebounds a night. He's also scoring 21 points a game. Meanwhile, Kyle Kuzma is also scoring over 20.5 points a game himself. When it comes to the injury report, Beal, Wright, and Hachimura, they're out for Washington. Meanwhile, for Chicago, Ball is still out. Caruso and Green are questionable. Now, total-wise, the Bulls are currently 80% to the under at the United Center. They're also 14-9 to the under at any location. I'm going to lean toward Washington plus 5.5, under 227.5 points. Next ball game, it is going to be Kings at the Bucks, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Milwaukee's -7 at the Pfizer Forum, totals 236. And as good as the Bucks have been, well, they haven't been great covering the number. They're 3-6 against the spread in their last 9, and they are having some issues shooting the basketball. Milwaukee's got one of the lower offensive field goal percentages in the Eastern Conference right now. They're also in the bottom 5 in the league in shooting from the field. I'm sorry, they're in the bottom 5 in the league in shooting from the foul line. Disregard what I said about the field. They're in the bottom 5 in shooting from the stripe. Now they're facing a Sacramento team who's definitely built for a track meet. These guys have little issue scoring. They're actually in the top 3 in the league in scoring right now. And they're also making just about 50% of their field goals as a team. De'Aaron Fox, he leads the club in scoring with 23 points a game, along with 5 boards, 5 assists. Meanwhile, Domantas Sabonis, he's scoring over 16.5 points a night. He currently leads the organization with 11 boards a game. Now, injury-wise, the Kings are mostly healthy for the exception of Terrence Davis, who's questionable. Meanwhile, for Milwaukee, Joe Ingles is still out for them. Now, total-wise, the Bucks saw 3 out of their last 4 stay under the number. Meanwhile, Sacramento is 70% to the under in all of their road games. I'm going to lean toward the Kings plus 7, under 236. Next contest, Pistons, Pelicans, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. New Orleans is -11, totals 228. Now, the Pels have won their last 4 straight, and they're doing a real solid job against the point spread. They're 7-3 ATS in their last 10, and they're one of the better shooting teams in the game. The Pels have the 5th highest field goal percentage in basketball right now. They're also in the top 5 in points per game. Zion Williamson, he leads the charge with 23 points a night, along with 7 rebounds. Meanwhile, CJ McCollum, he's dropping 17 points a night himself, along with 6 assists. Now they're facing a Pistons team who won just 3 out of 14 on the road this year. When it comes to defensive play, these guys are giving up over 118 points per contest. Now, injury-wise for the Pistons, Cade Cunningham's still out. Isaiah Livers is questionable. Meanwhile, for the Pelicans, Ingram and Liddell are out. Graham and Jones are questionable for them. When it comes to the total, New Orleans saw overs against the likes of Toronto, Memphis, and San Antonio. Meanwhile, Detroit went 60% to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward the Pelicans, -11, over 228. Next ball game, Warriors, Jazz, 9 o'clock East. Utah's -7.5, totals 234. Now, the Jazz have been really good on offense this year. They're scoring 122 points a game at home, and they're drilling nearly 41% of their three-pointers in front of their own fans. Lauri Markkanen's making over 41% of his shots from long distance. He's also the team's leading scorer with 22 points a game. Jordan Clarkson, he's also averaging nearly 20 points per contest himself. Now, they're facing a Golden State team who's going to work without Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Andrew Wiggins. And even when these guys are mostly healthy, this is a Warriors club who doesn't perform well on the road. These guys are just 2-10 straight up while traveling this year. And they successfully covered the point spread in only 16% of those road contests. Now, injury-wise, once again, Curry, Green, and Wiggins are out for Golden State. Meanwhile, for Utah, Conley's questionable. Juzang is out. Now, total-wise, the Jazz went 70% to the over in their last 10. Meanwhile, Golden State's 8-40 to the over in their last dozen on the road. I'm going to lean toward Utah, -7.5, over 234. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final breakdown for the NBA. It is going to be Celtics at the Suns, 10 o'clock Eastern tip-off. Boston's the 2-point favorite on the road, totals 230. And speaking of the total, the Celtics have seen their fair share of unders while traveling this year. These guys are 9-3 to the under on the road, and of course, that's good for 75% in that category. Now, more recently, Boston saw unders against the likes of Toronto, Brooklyn, and Sacramento. Now, the Suns on the other side, they saw 5 out of their last 9 stay under the line themselves. And out of their last 10 meetings with Boston, the under cashed in 60% of those contests. So if you're into historical trends, plenty of unders to go around. Now, injury-wise, Chris Paul and Torrey Craig, they're questionable for Phoenix. Crowder, Johnson, and Washington are still out. Meanwhile, for Boston, Horford and Brogdon are questionable. Gallinari and Williams are still out for them. When it comes to selecting a winner in this one, this game's being featured as my extra daily bet on my website. So if you want to see whether I like Boston laying a bucket on the road or if I like Phoenix catching 2 at home, there's only one way to find out, and that's to sign up for my extra daily bet on my website. And I'll include a link for that play in the description section below. And the good news is, guys, our extra daily bet, it's only going to cost you just $2.99. And if you sign up for that package here today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. Now, as an added bonus here for you guys, I'm also going to throw in my daily best play for you absolutely free. It's going to be included with your purchase of the extra daily bet. But as far as making a free pick is concerned, I'm going to lean toward the under 230 in that game. All right, guys, let's go ahead and dive into some college basketball action. We're going to start off with DePaul at St. John's, 6:30 p.m. East. St. John's is -9, totals 158. Now, the Red Storms are one of the better scoring teams in the country right now. They're averaging 81 points a night, and they're also in the top 15 in offensive rebounds. Joel Soriano is grabbing over a dozen rebounds a night. He's actually 3rd in the nation in that category. Meanwhile, teammate David Jones, he's the team's leading scorer with just about 15 points a game. They're facing a DePaul club who really struggles on defense. These guys are allowing 75 points a game, and they're having a tough time grabbing defensive boards. And speaking of defense, the Blue Demons allowed 82 points or more in 3 out of their last 4 ball games. Now, injury-wise, Ane is out for DePaul. Meanwhile, for St. John's, Stanley and Adai Wusu are questionable. When it comes to the total, the Red Storms 6-3 to the over in their last 9. Meanwhile, DePaul saw their last 4 straight get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean towards St. John's -9 over 158. Next contest, a little Big Ten action. I'm talking about Michigan State taking on Penn State, 6:30 p.m. East. Penn State's -3.5 at the Bryce Jordan Center. Totals 137 and a hook. Now, the Nittany Lions have been dropping 3-pointers all season long. They're drilling over 40% of their 3 balls this year, and they rank in the top 15 in the country in that category. Seth Lundy's 19 of 39 from beyond the arc, and he ranks 2nd on the team in scoring. And speaking of points, Jalen Pickett's averaging a team-best 16 points a game. Now, they're facing a Michigan State team who's not very good covering the point spread. These guys failed to cover in 5 out of their last 6. And they allowed 70 points or more in all of those contests I just mentioned. Now, total-wise, Michigan State went 6-1 to the over in their last 7 outings. Meanwhile, Penn State saw overs against the likes of Clemson, Loyola, Maryland, and Winthrop. I'm going to lean toward Penn State -3.5 over 137 and a hook. Next ball game, it is going to be Siena taking on Georgetown, 6:30 p.m. East. Georgetown is the 6-point favorite, totals 142. Now, the Hoyas are on a 2-game skid, and they did drop 5 out of their last 7 as well. And in addition to allowing 74 points a game on defense, Georgetown is one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the nation. They're facing a Siena team who does a nice job grabbing defensive boards themselves. When it comes to offensive production, these guys are one of the better 3-point shooting teams in the country. They're drilling nearly 40% of their shots from downtown. Andrew Platek's making over 51% of his three-pointers. He's also averaging double-digit points a night. Meanwhile, Javian McCollum, he's the team's leading scorer with nearly 19 points a game. Now, injury-wise, Owens is out for the Saints. Meanwhile, for Georgetown, Riley is questionable. Harris is out for them. When it comes to the total, the Hoyas saw overs against the likes of South Carolina, Texas Tech, and Wisconsin Green Bay. Meanwhile, SIENA saw all of their games this year get over the total except for two. I'm going to lean towards SIENA +6 over 142. And with that, we're going to jump into some NHL action. Let's take a look at the Caps at the Flyers, 7 o'clock Eastern puck drop. Washington's -135, total 6. Charlie Lindgren for Washington, Carter Hart for Philadelphia. And as bad as the Flyers have been, Carter Hart's really given these guys a chance to win games in the net. The netminder somehow has a winning record between the pipes this year. He also has a goals against average in the 2s, along with a .911 save percentage. Now, as a team, the Flyers did get the W in 2 out of their last 4 victories over the likes of the Avalanche and the Islanders. Defenseman Nick Seeler, he's a +5 when he's on a shift. When it comes to scoring, Travis Konechny leads the club in goals. Now, they're going to have to face Charlie Lindgren in net on the other side, who really hasn't been great for Washington. The Wizards goaltender, he has a .333 goals against average and a save percentage below .900. And out of Washington's 15 road games, they got the W only 4 times. They're in the bottom 5 in the league right now in goals per contest. Now, injury-wise, Backstrom, Orlov, and Hagelin are still on the IR for Washington. Meanwhile, for Philly, Atkinson and Couturier, they're still out for them. But James Van Riemsdyk, he is going to play tonight. He's been upgraded to probable for Philly. Now, total-wise, Philly's 9-5 to the under at the Wells Fargo Center. Meanwhile, Washington went 60% to the under on the road. I'm going to lean toward the Flyers +115, under 6. Next game, Bruins, Avalanche, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Boston's -170, total 6 goals. Linus Ullmark for Boston, Alex Gorgiev for Colorado. And as good as Gorgiev's played, the Avs as a team, they've dropped 3 out of their last 4. And that includes a 5-3 loss to Philadelphia during that span. Now, these Colorado defensive lines, they've also had a tough time giving up scoring chances. They're actually in the bottom 10 in defensive shots on goal per contest. They're facing a Boston team who does nothing but get pucks on net. These guys lead the NHL in scoring. As David Pastrnak, he has a team-best 17 goals. Now, Pasternak's 35 points are also in the top 5 in the league. He's in the top 5 in the league in points, 35 points for Pastrnak. Now, defenseman Hampus Lindholm, he's a +21 when he's on a shift. That's second best in the NHL. And that kind of production certainly helps out Linus Ullmark, who's virtually been unbeatable this year. Ullmark's 14-1 through 15 starts with a .193 goals against average. Now, injury-wise, the Bruins have remained mostly healthy for the exception of Craig Smith. He's questionable with an upper body injury. Meanwhile, for Colorado, Landeskog, McKinnon, and Rodriguez are still out. Lehkonen and Newhook are questionable. When it comes to the total, Colorado saw overs recently with Philadelphia, Buffalo, and Vancouver. Boston, on the other side, they are 67% to the over on the road this year. I'm going to lean toward the Bruins -170, over 6. Next matchup, Rangers, Golden Knights, 10 o'clock East. Vegas is -150, total 6 goals. Logan Thompson for Vegas, Igor Shesterkin for New York. Now, Igor's done a real nice job in the net this year. He's 11-4 with a save percentage of .910. And no real surprise here, guys. The Rangers are in the top 3 in the league right now in fewest road goals allowed. Now, when it comes to offensive production, the Rangers are getting 36 pucks on net a game while traveling. Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider, they share the team lead with 13 goals apiece. Now, Artemi Panarin, he leads the club in points with 30. They're facing a Vegas club who's struggled covering the puck line at home. These guys covered in just 5 of 12 home games, and much of that is due to a lack of offensive production. These guys are in the bottom 5 in the league in home scoring. Now, injury-wise, Pietrangelo and Eichel are questionable for Vegas. Meanwhile, for New York, Philip Chytil is questionable for them. And when it comes to the total, New York's currently 67% to the under on the road. Meanwhile, Vegas has gone a staggering 11-1 to the under in the T-Mobile Arena. I'm going to lean toward the Rangers, plus 1.5, under 6. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap for the NBA. I like the Clippers minus 7, under 216. Charlotte plus 10, under 222. Atlanta plus 2, over 231.5. LA Lakers plus 9, over 229. Indiana plus 5, over 236. Memphis minus 7.5, over 232. Washington plus 5.5, under 227.5. Sacramento plus 7, under 236. Pelicans minus 11, over 228. Utah Jazz minus 7.5, over 234. With my next and final free pick for NBA, give me the under 230 in the Boston-Phoenix game. And with that, we're going to jump into some college basketball. I like St. John's minus 9, over 158. Penn State minus 3.5, over 137 and a hook. Siena plus 6, over 142. Jacksonville plus 9, under 124. Cleveland State plus 8, under 131. Western Carolina plus 16, over 144. William and Mary plus 9, under 133. Brown plus 5, under 129. Florida Atlantic minus 7.5, under 142 and a hook. Cornell plus 15, under 154. Notre Dame minus 14, over 132. University of Penn plus 14.5, over 140.5. Purdue minus 22.5, over 144. West Virginia minus 18, over 134. Tennessee minus 28, under 143. Rider minus 3.5, over 144.5. Sacred Heart plus 8, under 139.5. North Alabama minus 6, over 145. Quinnipiac minus 10, over 140. Loyola, Maryland minus 2, under 141. Delaware Blue Hens minus 18, over 139.5. Army minus 7, over 138. Robert Morris plus 2, under 137.5. Binghamton plus 12, over 147. PFW minus 1.5, under 144. Detroit plus 5, over 151. Eastern Michigan plus 6, over 142.5. Indiana State plus 4, under 139. Campbell minus 2.5, under 129 and a hook. Ball State minus 11, over 136. Virginia Tech minus 7, under 128. Texas Tech minus 22, over 139. Drake minus 19, over 141. Manhattan plus 20, over 134. Indiana minus 12, under 133. Towson plus 6, under 132. Pitt Panthers plus 4, under 139. UConn minus 4.5, over 142.5. Arizona State minus 5, under 135. Loyola Marymount plus 5, under 133. BYU minus 8, over 141. Washington State minus 12, under 127. Cal Northridge plus 14, under 126. UNLV minus 7, under 130. New Mexico State plus 7, over 154. Cal Baptist minus 9, under 134.5. Missouri State plus 15, under 121. Denver plus 7, over 134. University of Cal minus 3, under 128. San Francisco minus 19, over 138. And with my next and final college basketball pick, give me Cal State Fullerton minus 15, under 134. And with that, we're going to jump into some NHL action. Give me Philadelphia plus $1.15, under 6. Buffalo minus 165, over 6.5. Minnesota plus 1.5, under 6. Boston minus 170 over 6 goals. Edmonton minus 1.5 over 6.5. New York Rangers plus 1.5 under 6. And with my next and final free pick, I'm going to lean toward Vancouver minus $1.15 over 6.5 goals.